Welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Emily,
I'm Joan of Heart.
and we're going to do something a little bit different this week. We're going to start with Gear of the Week. And this is actually kind of a gear of last week. But finally, after a month of waiting, Death by Audio has released the Disturbance. You can buy this now. It's awesome. I'm very stoked for this.
Yeah, I was pretty excited to not only just get to watch the demo because I saw it mostly at NAMM. I didn't get to play with it, but the fact that you can kind of fix it in the sweep at like any position was actually pretty unique and wild to me. Because like for a flanger or a phaser to like do that, I had never actually seen anything that could do that recently.
Yeah, so the gist of this pedal for all of those watching is a tri-mode pedal. It has filter, flanger, and phaser, and you can actually lock the LFO into place at any place. So that is super unique. I mean, I think we've all seen kind of like fixed filters. A lot of filter pedals have that. You just kind of sweep across the range, or it's like kind of that cocked wah sound. But to have that with to have that with a phaser or a flanger, it's really different because you just think of those two things as always moving. But you can lock in a sound and it can sound pretty cool, honestly. So, it has a couple things, like, you can change the center point as well of the LFO as it moves, and you can set a width to go so it only is covering, like, part of that or it's covering a lot of it. So, like, I you can tell that the team is just like, "What do I think I've never seen? What have I never seen? What still sounds, like, musical and cool but can also be absolutely bonkers?"
No, definitely. And when I was basically listening to your demo, and I think there was another one that I listened to. I think Death by Audio had one too that I listened to. And like some of the sounds they were getting, I was like, oh, I could definitely hear like the beginning sequence of like Duran Duran's was it When You Come Undone? That was like that opening like flanger kind of like sound. Like it I heard that in the pedal. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there are a lot of really cool usable sounds. You can get a really nice, sweet, almost chorusy flanger sound. I thought the phaser was really cool. I like phasers. I know you're not a big phaser guy.
Yeah, I
But
usually am not, but hey,
yeah.
I just haven't found the right one yet, perhaps. I'm not saying all phasers are bad, I found some flange that I like, but
Mhm.
you never know, I may find the one.
Yeah, this is, I think, maybe the third flanger pedal, well, at least pedal with flanger I've demoed this year, and I think this is one that people seem to have responded best to. So that's exciting. But then again, it had also phaser and filter. Filter, I really liked the filter. I thought I was getting some really cool sounds out of it. My only thing is when I have a filter pedal, I'm really partial to like an envelope style filter versus just a constantly moving LFO sort of filter.
Yeah, something that reacts more to picking dynamics as opposed to a sweep.
Exactly, and I just love envelope effects in general. Had an envelope tremolo earlier,
Mm.
with the Catalan bread. Their new tremolo, Tremolo 8 has an envelope one. The Laughing Man by Bookworm Effects is also an envelope tremolo. And oh gosh, one of those Dreadbox tremolo has envelope, but I found that to be fairly finicky. So, it's out there, it's a cool effect, but we're a lot of really cool pedals and inventive stuff. So just I think this pedal from DBA is a winner. It's not the first of their pedals that's gonna end up on one of my boards, and I doubt it's gonna be the last. No.
Yeah, no doubt. I
Mhm.
said listening to, when playing The Rooms, that's still on my list now that I've played it, and I was like, "Yeah, probably at some point, Death by Audio will probably be in my home at some
Oh,
point."
yeah. Absolutely, and really, really great crew. So thanks again to them for, shipping well, I guess, handing that to me to demo. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah. They actually handed, this to me at NAMM, which kinda leads us into our topic for this week. Will mini events take money and attention away from NAMM? I think most notably, uh, during NAMM, like the Saturday of NAMM, there was a competing, I guess you'd call it competing, event that had a bunch of, boutique pedal builders. I don't know if any of them were also showing at NAMM, maybe at the boutique
No,
showcase, but I can't think of ones that were. So
no,
instead of doing NAMM,
unless
yeah, instead
sorry.
of doing NAMM, they did their own thing. And this is not the first time it's happened. It's the first time it's happened at NAMM, essentially, like during it. So basically, piggybacking off of the fact that people are already going to be there. But
Mhm.
these things have been popping up, like these kinds of events, smaller ones have been popping up around the country. And it's like really not uncommon for, like, guitar trade shows have existed forever, but I wonder if the smaller events are how it's just gonna go moving forward.
I think so, and I think it's smart. I've heard other people talking that are builders saying, "Yeah, because some of them went to that Saturday, market little pop up, and they're like, well, we should do that where we are." So, yeah, I think it's probably going to be we're going to start seeing them over the next year or so, and I think it actually is a good solution to the time in between, NAM. And if people can't go to NAM, okay, what's local? Like, what's going on? What can I see? What can I experience? Meeting people, community. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, these things have to be more affordable for the pedal brands as well. Everyone knows booth space at NAMM is expensive as
Oof.
hell. Like just really, really, really pricey to the point where like that boutique showcase, a boutique pedal showcase, is just someone buys a large booth area and then kind of sells that space to these smaller brands or however that works. And like it's crowded, nobody can really play anything. People are just kind of standing around. And like for these boutique brands, yeah, I mean, the idea of NAMM was to connect brands and the merchants. It's the National Association of Music Merchants. But as that seems to become, frankly, less important, I mean, Chase Bliss doesn't even sell through distributors anymore. The importance seems to be getting people to buy direct. I mean, you'll want people to buy direct. It's the same kind of idea, I think, as having like a record, like being on a record label where, yeah, you can just do it yourself and keep all the money, but there is some like good that comes out of being in a store and people can go and they can try it and they can buy it. And there's a lot to be said for that, especially for smaller brands.
No, I agree. And I think in some of these instances where we have these events that are popping up too, in like, let's say, Chase Bliss having their own unique event where people can obviously experience music, talking, connecting with people, and also, trying out pedals while you're actually at the event. So that's, I guess, their unique way in which they're trying to, I guess, connect more with their customers. But yeah, I do agree. There does need to be a presence in, brick and mortar places so that people that can't go to these events can still experience these pedals.
Yeah, I mean, obviously more people are going to be able to go to them if they are like local. But I mean, if you're looking at some of these brands, I mean, usually you are paying for somebody to travel to the smaller show. So that's the flight, that's the hotel, that's the setup, that's paying for somebody's meals when they're traveling. Like, that's got to add up. I'm not sure at what point that becomes less tenable than NAM itself, but it has to be a number. It simply has to. So, yeah, but that kind of like it's not just pedal events either. There are other just events in general, and listeners are going to hear more about it in this episode. The Fretboard Summit in Chicago is coming up in late August, and I talked to Jason Verlinde about that. He runs the Fretboard Journal. It's a great magazine. And a series of podcasts. But he and I were talking, and the Fretboard Summit, it is like kind of like a mini conference convention. There are tables with builders, there are educational events, there are entertainment events, and it's a destination thing. So a bunch of people go to Chicago, spend a weekend, stay where they want to stay, and then go to this event during the day. And it is not for merchants per se, but there are merchants there. So like I'm curious to see where that goes because obviously it's being held in really high regard by like Josh Scott, who was there last year, is going to be there this year hosting an Iron Chef style fuzz build off. And again, you'll hear more about that from Jason deeper in this episode. But I like the like events aren't easy to put on. I don't know if one event will ever take over NAMM.
No, and I think NAMM is its own entity for, again, like if it was doing merchants, I think it's its own niche right now. I think the evolution of these other shows are also meet their own kind of sphere of your community in which they can coexist at the same time perfectly.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it just I think it's likely that NAMM will just not be as big as it was.
Yeah.
And smaller brands stop coming because bigger brands aren't coming. Really, there's 2 ways that could play out the bigger brands not going. It could leave room for a smaller brand to make a huge impression, or it could just mean smaller brands like, well, if Fender's not gonna be there and if my peers aren't going to be there and like Chase Bliss size or Old Blood Noise size, why should I be there? Am I getting more benefit from being there when they're not? Or is it just bringing less attention to this part of the industry as a whole? I don't know if there's an answer.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, I've heard two different, you know, people basically saying, one was saying, "Oh, the big people aren't here. Like what, it's not as big, like, and then I've heard other people say, "Hey, it's not as big, but hey, I get to see some vendors or people that I otherwise wouldn't. I'm connecting more with people directly." I mean, there's two sides of it. And yeah, you're going to have people that like it small and you're going to have people saying, "Well, if the big guys ain't here, then, how do I stand out? How do I kind of connect with that?"
Yeah, I mean, that's one side of it. Press is another side of it. I mean,
Mhm.
increasingly that was a huge part of NAMM is like, can I get someone to write about this product I'm launching? And if brands like guitar.com aren't sending people to cover it, like they didn't send, I don't think they sent anybody to cover it in 2022, then there's nobody there to write about the smaller brands that are doing things either. So if the big media companies, relatively big, let's be honest, big media companies see no point in sending anybody because the big brands aren't going to be there. And perhaps bigger distributors or retailers, merchants don't see any reason to go because the big brands aren't there. That's not helping the smaller brands who choose to go.
No, no, it's not. With that perspective, I agree. It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm really excited to go to the Fretboard Summit in Chicago in August. I've been to the Fretboard Summit before. I actually worked for the company that put on the first couple of summit events. So that was, I feel really excited to be going and not manning like the registration booth this time and not worrying about
You get to
like
enjoy.
I still have to worry about marketing and capturing content, but, just for me and nobody nobody leaning over my
Yeah,
shoulder and getting mad because 'cause I'm not doing it right. Yeah. So I guess the long and
exactly.
short of it is, we don't know what's gonna happen to NAMM if the big brands don't come because it doesn't sound like Fender is going to go back unless there's a compelling reason. And if that causes some sort of like butterfly effect that goes through and then the medium brands and then the small brands, it might just be this kind of disjointed weekender kind of situation where a bunch of pedal brands and a couple guitar brands take over a brewery on a Saturday from like 10 to 5 and you go and you dick around with stuff. So,
Doesn't sound like that. Doesn't sound too bad.
no, it doesn't sound too bad. It sounds like low key fun and sounds like you're probably going to be more likely to talk to people and play things. So, I
Yes.
yeah, those things are cool. Yeah. So really quickly before we get into the next thing that we're going to talk about, I just want to shout out our Patreon. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/get offset for as little as $5 a month. You get access to our exclusive Discord server. And Patreon supporters of all levels are going to have more opportunities to participate in the podcast itself. So we have the $1 level, 5, 10. Please consider checking those out if you enjoy the channel. Yeah. What else we got? Oh yeah, super chats. If you're watching this during the premiere, you can drop a super chat in the chat. Always appreciated, never required, never expected. Just surprising and
Oh, thank
delightful.
you.
It's a fun way to fun for us to support the channel. If you're watching this later, you can drop like a say thanks below, and those are both on YouTube. If you're listening elsewhere, Patreon's probably the best way. I believe if you're listening on Spotify, there might be a way to drop us a couple bucks as well, but, your support is
No, no.
always, always appreciated. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave a review where you can. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, let's talk about some current events. Currently, you might have noticed the format of the podcast is changing, and if you listen to my 6 minute or whatever spiel a few weeks ago,
Yep.
you know it's coming. Obviously, if you're watching right now, it's not like this huge dynamic change. I don't think.
No.
No, just trying to make things go a little bit faster, a little more segmented, not trying to pick one topic and stretch it into 45 minutes.
Yeah.
No, we're doing it for you.
No. I
So,
think this is gonna work better. Yeah. Because I mean, again, like in these kind of conversations, when they're short conversations, it can be focused. It can be a little bit more to have a conversation in which we are getting to the point of things rather than, yeah, trying to stretch things on.
yeah, nobody wants that. Maybe some people do. Joe Rogan has lots of listeners, but I'm not Joe Rogan. Yeah, so we're going to talk about some current events now. Some of these are probably more current than others. But yeah, so the new format of the podcast is the first thing we want to talk about.
Yep.
Diamond Pedals relaunch. We knew that was coming.
Yep, and it was nice to see that lineup because yeah, they were gone for quite a while and didn't know if they're coming back. But was it Solid Gold Effects? Pretty much
Hmm.
bought them, is what we heard, and then them coming back being in the smaller enclosures, which is great for saving space on the board.
Yeah, people were, I don't think, expecting that. I think most people kind of expected almost part for part recreations. The smaller format, I think it's smart. I think it's generally smart
Yeah.
when you can make something smaller to do so if it doesn't affect the quality at all.
No, and that is the important part. Like in watching some of the demo stuff and reading some of the stuff on their website, the memory lane even seems to be, I guess, a little bit alteration from the original, but it's supposed to still hold true. You know, obviously the heart of that sound. But other than that, I mean, at the prices that they have going for it, I think it's pretty much comparative to what's out there.
Yeah, totally. So, good for solid gold diamond. Still don't know if it was the biggest gear news of last year as they touted, but definitely made a splash. So, another cool thing is Fender released the Steve Lacy signature Stratocaster. So he's been taking
Yes.
the world by storm a little bit. It's really cool to see what the new generation of, essentially pop stars who have guitars is looking like. And it's not
Hmm.
really like fast metal shredders or anything. Like Steve Lacy is like, I would call it relatively bedroom pop. I don't know really how to
Yeah,
describe
when
the
I was
sound.
listening, kind of sounds like I guess you'd kind of describe it as like psychedelic R&B in a
Oh
sense.
yeah. Yeah, that's good. I've only really seen him on SNL, and I thought it was good. Uh, I like that one of the selling points was a backplate featuring art by Steve Lacy, and it's just like this weird little goofy
Yeah.
doodle a kindergartner could make. I'm like, that's cute.
I thought it was great too.
Yeah. I think the burst is a fine choice. It's just like kind of a two-tone burst. Just nice
Yeah,
enough.
I thought it was interesting On the back, though, it almost feels like there's a different color, like a pinkish tint on the back, too. It's like it has the 3 on the front, but it looks like there's kind of a pink kind of tint on the back.
Oh, it is a tri-colored
Mhm.
burst. I don't know why I thought it was 2. It's
It's
just, like, it's a very tight. It's called the
it's
People
hard, yeah,
Pleaser.
it would yeah, with the photos online, it was kinda hard to see, but then when I was looking at videos and they flipped it over and I was like, "Oh, it is definitely
Oh,
kind of like a
shit.
pinkish."
Yeah, it is, like it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's more
And
of
that's
a
why that
yeah,
back plate pops. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so it's got the neck plate is the weird little doodle of a face, and then the, plate covering the tremolo system, it is like a
Mhm.
green and yellow checkered kinda thing. It's got a signature on it. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting, stood out to me, was it's got the noiseless pickups, and I'm sure it's part of the R&B thing. The Her Signature Stratocaster also has noiseless
Yeah.
pickups. I'm sorry, the Performer 2, God, what is that called? The Made in Mexico series that I demoed. Player Plus. The Player Plus
Yeah,
guitars
the
had
flip.
those noiseless
Mhm.
pickups as well. So it seems like Fender's really pushing those, and I think they sound fine. Like, I have no beef with how those sound. Do I think maybe like just set of Seymour Duncans would sound better? Probably.
Yeah, with this model, the signature, the player process pretty much what they took the foundation of that to, like, build it off of. So, yeah, the noiseless being in there would make sense.
Yeah. And it comes it's for sale for $1,400. So relatively affordable, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
I mean,
how
I mean,
it's expensive.
it's a little cheaper than the My Am Pro when I got it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit
Yeah.
cheaper. Not by
One
much, but,
one thing I find mighty cheesy about this guitar is, and I just always think
hmm,
that this is cheesy, the inlays with the 2 dice.
on the 12th fret.
Yeah, and then they're both sixes. So that's a little cute, but at the same
Yeah.
time I'm like, eh,
Eh.
eh. Not really my thing, but really cool that he's got a signature guitar. I really think it's great that they're picking some younger artists. Obviously, it's important to keep younger people interested in playing guitar, and signature models with people like her and Steve Lacy, great way to do that. Yeah.
No, I agree, and I like the fact that this one has the unique feature of the fuzz circuit built in, with a little switch. The extra tone knob is basically like the button that you push in, and once you kick in, the fuzz knob, which is the other tone knob, you turn it to control, obviously, the volume of the fuzz, and then the other, tone knob is actually then switches its function and turns into, obviously, light or dark for the fuzz circuit when it kicks in, and it's a built-in, effect into a Fender guitar, so that I thought that was pretty neat.
I fully forgot about the fuzz circuit in it.
I thought that was the best part about it, like,
Now I
that was
really
like,
want
"Yes,
one.
built-in effects, yes." Because
Dear
again, I think of, like,
Fender.
when I think of yeah, you right now. Send me right now.
I gotta try it. I gotta try it. Okay, I'm sold.
I Fender, I should pitch.
Ha ha ha. One thing I'm not sold on was Morley's, tribute to Tina Turner, which they have
Oh,
thankfully and
no.
smartly deleted. You tagged me in that, and first I was like, "What the fuck am I looking at?"
Yes.
But, obviously,
Yes.
Tina
Sorry for the late night, like, tag.
I didn't even see it till the next day, but Tina Turner sadly passed
Yeah,
away at the age of 83 in Switzerland. Obviously, she's an icon. Very
RIP.
famously, was in an abusive relationship with Ike Turner,
Mhm.
who, obviously Ike, very important to the history of rock and roll, absolute piece of shit, real
Yeah,
d-bag.
as a person.
Seemed like I've watched interviews with him. It doesn't seem like there was a lot of redeeming factors about it. Him as a person, and Morley decides to do some sort of tribute, and it's more like it really sometimes these tributes come across as, how can I make this about me? And they didn't just make it
Yes.
about them, they made it about them and Ike Turner, who's been dead for
Yes, I
years.
do not yeah, and to mention it, like, obviously on the death of Tina Turner to bring up her husband, which is obviously a very abusive partner, and to highlight him on her day of passing just seemed very detached, and it really, I don't know, it really, it was unsettling,
Oh, it was
to be
disgusting.
the
Let's just
least
call it. It
about
was
it.
really a
It was,
gross
yeah.
thing to do. Like, I'm glad somebody realized it was a bad idea and deleted
Yeah, that
it.
they posted it.
Like, come on, like, listen,
I'm glad someone screenshotted it. Yeah.
yeah, listen, brands. When someone dies, don't make it about yourself. And like, if you have an actual relationship with that person, sure, like showcase that relationship a little bit, like in the tribute, but make it about the legend who died. Give them their flowers. Don't like pick them off the grave.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, even like in the quote that they put up on there, it says, it has like the tag for Morley, and then it's like, go to quotation, I called Marv and wanted one of the units. So here comes a driver wearing denims, driving a Rolls Royce, and he picked it up and gave Marv a check. And that was that. As years went by, I saw Ike more and more, especially when we were Morley. And and then, of course, at the end of that, aside from more of their propaganda and showing in the background with the dancers with Tina where their unit was and pointing to it, then at the very end, the last photo is Tina Turner, RIP, of course, with the date. Like, her is the last photo. And I was like, this is just. Who said this was okay to post? This is horrible.
Someone with just like no
Mm.
understanding of how people were going to respond. Like, I don't know how. I
How
like.
could you
I
not?
don't want to pile on to whoever did this, but this was a bad idea, and I hope you
Mm.
feel a little bit bad about it. I hope you don't feel too bad about it, but I hope you at least feel a little bad about it.
Just a bit, just a bit, just a bit.
This week's episode of Get Offset is brought to you by Moog Music. Moog instruments continue to inspire artists and listeners around the world. As music technology continues to evolve, the company and its employee owners carry on Bob Moog's devotion to creating innovative tools designed for the musician. Moog Music's latest venture is a reimagining of some of its most influential analog instruments of the past for today's audio production workflow. The Moogerfooger Effects Plug-ins are compatible across all major DAWs on Windows and Mac OS, making the Moog sound more accessible than ever. I use the MF108 Cluster Flux, a flexible processor that can modulate between chorus, flanging, and vibrato in the background track you're listening to right now. I love this effect. It's probably the most used of the plugins. For me personally, I even use it in a recent recording project. Learn more about the Moogerfooger Effects plugins by clicking the link in the video or podcast description or by visiting software.moogmusic.com. That's software.moggmusic.com. So thank you again to Moog. Really appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. Again, please check them out in the, video description, show notes, wherever you are listening and or watching this. By the way, there's a YouTube version
Thank
if you're
you.
listening. Cool. Well, now is kind of damn. I stepped on my in ears. Now is something that we're gonna do. It's
Oh,
kind of new, and it's one of those Patreon perks I was talking about earlier. We are going to do one of these hopefully every episode, a game, and that game is going to be brought to us by either a friend of the show or a Patreon supporter who is both a friend and a Patreon supporter. So, Joe, are you ready? Do you have this pulled up?
I have it pulled up.
Okay. So we are going to, I'm going to open the video, and I'm going to hit pause, and I'm going to put it on the screen over there. It's going to take so much more editing than I'm used to. All right. So is the gist the gist of this game is overrated, underrated. Yes, I stole this from Pitchfork. They can't own it. You can't own that.
Come, come get us.
Yeah, just it's overrated or underrated,
Maybe not.
and maybe. I think that
Maybe.
Pitchfork as a whole is overrated, and I think that segment that they do on YouTube is underrated. So let's go ahead and let's do 3, 2, 1, play.
Hi, Emily and Joe. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm Josh, and I was wondering which of these things do you think are overrated or underrated? The first is top jacks on pedals. Some companies put the jacks on the side, and others, like Earthquaker, put the jacks on the top. Do you think that's overrated or underrated?
Top jacks overrated. I'm just gonna go ahead
Mm.
and say it. I think top jacks are overrated. I don't care. I don't care. I simply don't. I simply don't care if a pedal has top jacks or side jacks. Half the time, I feel like the pedal itself has top jacks, and then the power supply's on the side anyway. So then that's doubly like you talk about top jacks, and then you put the power supply on the side. Stupid, like it shouldn't matter that much. So it's already going to be spaced. Another thing I think is overrated about top jacks is it encourages people to put their pedals way too close together, especially some of those pedals have a small format and then two foot switches, and you're already kind of pushing it with that form factor. And then you add top jacks, you squish them close together, and you probably have like two pedals in a row that have like tap tempo on the left and the bypass on the right. That's asking for accidents to happen. I will die on this hill. And I feel like you disagree.
I mean, you made all your points. They are very valid. We live in two different, spheres of gear kind of use, but I think they're underrated because, again, I appreciate being able to get a little bit closer together with the obvious, inclination to try to put them all on my board. And if I run out of room, that's probably a bad situation. Um, Especially when some are longer than others. I wish I had more room. I have met the inconvenient aspect of running out of room recently. But I don't mind the jacks being on the side. I like them on the top because then it's a little bit more hidden. It looks a
Mhm.
little bit cleaner or neater as
It
opposed to some of the ones that.
absolutely looks cleaner. I'm not going to disagree with that. I will if anyone's ever seen me post a board that I put together for a show, knows I don't give a shit. I don't care if it looks really nice and put together. I threw it together
I
that
guess my
morning.
I guess I have a little bit more of an OCD that kicks in when recently I've had wires because I have pedals like sideways now because of routing, and like cables are like over and under, and it's driving me fucking nuts. Like seeing that, and I'm like, that I do.
Sideways, then you got sideways pedals that have top jacks. So then if they were on the side, it would be like top and bottom jacks. You see? You see what I'm saying? If it was on the side, if you had some pedals where it's on the side, it's again like I don't care. I just think like if the pedal's good, listen, if it's wide like this, top jacks,
Mhm.
sure. But it's probably can create the need to make the pedal bigger because you got to fit them in there. I know it's not always a problem, but some of these pedals have a lot going on inside, big circuit boards, and you got to
Oh yeah.
figure out how to make them top jacks too. Just make the pedal the way it makes sense.
Well, I mean, I understand that, and yeah, if they could find better ways and larger pedals to do that, hey, great. But in the meantime, all the larger pedals have the top jacks, and then to try to get them in a row, like let me complicate my own life, Emily. Like, if I want to complicate my life, which I historically do, just look at all the animation thing and all that I do. I probably could make a normal demo, but no, I have to be extra and I have to overcomplicate myself and animate them. So I like to make myself, I guess, a little complicated. And that goes to the pedals too and my
Yeah,
OCD.
I gotcha. I gotcha. All right, let's hit play and watch the next one.
Okay, next thing, overrated or underrated? Variable voltage on pedals. My Wampler Pantheon, I can use 9 to 18 volts through the pedal, and they claim that the higher headroom makes it sound clearer. Do you think that's overrated or underrated?
You take this one. You start.
All right, you take it. All right. I think the 18 volt is overrated. I mean, I have a MXR 10 band, I think they can do the 18. I have a Earthquake Devices tone job that has the, more headroom of being able to do the 18 volt. In trying both of them, I still thought the sound of when they were running at 9 volt was better sounding to me. I really didn't find it was, oh my God, with the 18, and just ran it at the 9. Simplicity, I think, is best when it comes to running pedals. And then, of course, when you're introducing different voltages, if you don't have a PSU that can account for that, then obviously, yes, then you'd have a whole bunch of different ways in which you have to power your pedals separately, and then keep track of that because you don't want to be plugging that into the wrong wrong
Yeah.
pedal. So yeah.
I agree. I think it complicates a rig
Yeah.
entirely. I think it's better and easier to just get the pedal that sounds the way that you want it to sound in the first place. It'd be one thing if it was like a switch where you put 18 in and then you can, toggle it on to take away or add headroom. But the truth is like it's only going to do one or the other anyway. Just get the one that you want that works the way you want it and sounds the way you want it in the first place. I think it's highly overrated. I've never even done it. I've never even
Yeah.
tried because my power supplies are all 9 volt. I think I have one or two that can do 12, maybe one that can do 18. I don't I I don't care. It's one of those things like just get the pedal that sounds the way you want it to sound in the first place. What I think is underrated is the believable audio slash 29 pedals, whatever power input, where you can plug whatever the hell you want in there within reason, and the pedal is going to work the way Jesse intended. I almost said the way God intended. But,
I mean, I they're kind of close in
have you ever
proximity
seen have you ever
with
seen oh,
making pedals.
have you
I
ever seen
haven't
them
seen them
both?
in the same
I
place.
haven't seen them in the same place either.
No.
We're asking the hard questions today. So I think that one is a consensus. We both think they're overrated. And just for everybody
Yeah.
listening or watching, if you're listening on Spotify and disagree, let us know. Send us a message. You can send us a little voice recording there too. If you're on YouTube, drop a comment. Tell us, are we wrong? How wrong are we? Be honest. But I think that one is pretty clear.
Okay, next. Coil splitting on humbuckers. A lot of guitars that have humbuckers in them, usually there's a knob or a switch that you can flip and it splits the humbuckers into a single coil. Do you think that's overrated or underrated?
I
Mhm.
have several guitars that do this, and I use it with some frequency. I think it's underrated. My thing is, I don't think it ever sounds just like a single coil. I think it gets close, but not like there's something always kind of like something weird about it that I can't place. But that being said, I think it's great, especially if you don't want to bring multiple guitars to a gig, but you still want to get a couple different sounds. Like I'm a big fan of doing the weirdest wiring stuff ever. That's why I'm such good friends with Sean from Gun Street Wiring. Not an ad.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's underrated, and I think everybody should play around with stuff. Oh, another cool thing is Seymour Duncan has the Hyper Switch now. So you can, it's basically a solderless 5-way switch for a guitar. And like, say you have a Strat and you have 3 humbuckers that are made for single coil sound. Like you can split any of those. You can put them in and out of phase. Just with like programming it on your phone, and then you save on the guitar itself 5 different presets. So instead of like the 5 position being the bridge, it's just whatever you want it to be. So those are two cool things that I just think everybody should mess with the wiring in their guitars. I huge proponent.
That's actually pretty cool. The fact that with the app and everything,
It's
like
really cool.
that's pretty neat. Yeah, no, I'm on the same page as far as it being underrated. I have no arguments to make. I also think that it's really great to have a different sound, and it being not exactly like a single coil has that unique characteristic that has that slightly different aspect. And yeah, you're not taking multiple guitars. I've seen bands where they have like a row of guitars like on the stage. I was like, oh my God, imagine afterwards anyone having to break that down, bring that, things get lost. Like, yeah, I think keep it simple.
Yeah, keeping it simple. All right, I think we have time for one more. 3, 2, 1, play.
And finally, do you think this is overrated or underrated? Stainless steel frets on guitars. They claim that that stainless steel frets will last longer and you won't need to polish. or level them nearly as often as you do nickel alloy frets, but they seem to be on more expensive guitars. Do you think that kind of feature is overrated or underrated?
Joe, do you want to take this one?
I really don't have a preference.
I don't know if I've played a guitar with stainless steel frets, but I will tell you it's underrated. I have a nickel allergy, and nickel can
Yeah.
suck it. So
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the big thing.
that would be, yes, that would definitely be a thing I would not like either. So, yeah, I also have that kind of allergy also. Yeah, for me, it was just like, if it works, great. When it comes, I was like, yeah, I don't think it's a deal to me unless it has the nickel. Then we have a problem. That's not going to be a good day for me, and that's going to go right back.
Yeah, I mean, I have guitars with, I think, pretty sure they all have like a lot of them have nickel frets, fret wire, if not all of them. But like, it's not a huge deal. But just like as from a personal standpoint, I just don't. If knew I had an option, I would take it. For sure. Like if I
Yes.
had Warmouth or somebody building me a neck for a guitar custom, I would have stainless steel frets put in. Like no question about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Josh
That was
is
fun.
a supporter of our Patreon. Again, patreon.com/getoffset if you'd like to get in on the action. Next, we're going to do something a little bit different. Joe is going to leave us, and we are going to be joined, I'm going to be joined by Jason Verlinde of the Fretboard Journal for a conversation we had earlier this week. Welcome, Jason, from the Fretboard Journal to the newest version of the Get Offset podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, I do think it's funny that we're clearly both in Seattle and doing this remotely, but it's easy. It's easy, right?
Anytime you want to come by and do one in person, we can.
Is it in the same space?
Yes, I'm in the same space. The Fretboard Journal
Nice.
has been in the same space for like a decade.
That's awesome because I thought that building was for sale and definitely not going to
It
be.
has been for sale. It's changed owners. It's changed management. It's as infuriating as ever, but it's my home.
Hey, at least it hasn't turned to condos.
It's true. That's true.
That's exactly what Ballard needs. Well, I brought you on because I wanted to talk about something that you're doing that's really cool and that I've actually been a part of before, the Fretboard Summit. So for everybody, the Fretboard Journal is a great magazine, actual print magazine that comes out, I believe, quarterly still.
It's quarterly. Yeah. Every
Yeah.
few months, a little mini coffee table book shows up in your life. Yeah.
It's pretty great. I've written for it. I've purchased it before. I think I have the second issue. I bought that when it came out because that was one with Nico Case on the cover, right?
That's a collector's item now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sells for big bucks on eBay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I told you about my home renovation woes, so
Yeah, there you go.
I'm keeping
Start
it.
flipping magazines. Yeah.
Start flipping of all the things to flip, man. Normally people just give away stacks of them, like at a guitar store. You'll just see a big box with a bunch of old issues of acoustic guitar. And I'll be like, well, let me just see which ones of these have songs I want to learn.
There is a healthy resellers market for fretboard journals, which is kind of strange. It's ebbed and flowed. Sometimes the pricing has gotten ridiculous, but yeah, people do horse trade magazines, or at least this one.
Do you know which ones are the most valuable? I assume issue 1.
The first
and the
one
Nico
is
Case.
the first one, and then occasionally you'll get people trying to sell like a complete set, which just seems like a crazy thing of like 65 pounds of magazines or whatever it is, for like $1,000. And I think some people have done that. But yeah, the first issues have sold for like $100, $200. I don't know.
Gosh, can you imagine?
I don't keep track. I don't have any. I mean, I have like one.
Can you imagine buying the full set on eBay and then paying whatever media mail is and then getting it like 4 weeks later?
No.
Couldn't
The
either.
whole thing, as somebody who deals in shipping like printed products for my living, like the idea of getting a box of all of them at once is just very overwhelming to me.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, the Fretboard Journal, that started in, was it 2016 was the first year or 2015?
No, 2005 is when the Fretboard Journal
2005?
started.
Oh, the Fretboard
Yeah.
Summit. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, the Fretboard Summit was, so we started the magazine like 2005, started launching, doing podcasts and stuff. And then I think it was 2016 and 17 were the two first attempts at creating this sort of like guitar gathering where anybody could come and meet people from the industry and see some amazing players and hang out and talk to brands. And we did that twice with you at your former employer. And then we just sort of shelved the idea. It was like a huge undertaking. It was frankly not a way to make any money at all. It was sort of a money losing endeavor.
Yeah.
And it was fun and gratifying. And we had like incredible players, Molly Tuttle, Bill Frisell, Joe Henry, Blake Mills, like all these incredible people showed up at the first two. But it was really just a difficult exercise and really hard. And so I had put the whole crazy idea on pause. And then in the middle of the pandemic, the Old Town School of Folk Music reached out to me, which is this incredible institution in Chicago that's been going on for decades and has like 2 buildings and multiple theaters and a bar inside, and like it's got all these classrooms. It's a working music school, one of the biggest in the country. So they have dozens of soundproof rooms that are kind of perfect for a guitar hang. And when they approached me, and I, as much as I was like, never again, when they approached me and were like, oh yeah, we have all the microphones, all the guitar stands, everything is just here, turnkey. We have a stage. You don't have to build a stage from scratch like we did the first 2 times. It
Yeah.
was an irresistible offer. And so, yeah, we're doing it again this August. It's going to be the 3rd weekend in August in perpetuity, but it's like August 24th to 26th, 2023.
That's awesome. I mean, I remember when
Mhm.
we did it, it was kind of the locations were picked as getaways almost, which is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I really get the vibe and I liked the vibe. That was really cool and convenient. But I understand that it probably makes more sense to have it in a place that's more turnkey. That probably saves your expenses a lot and you don't have to like reserve blocks of rooms at Rancho Bernardo
Yes,
Resort or
that
whatever.
was the hardest part, is like, doing these things on a resort. You start to understand why cruise ships like these cruise ship blues cruises or whatever happen. It's like the easiest thing to do is to like think of summer camp and take over a resort. The problem is the minute you do that, somebody will say, well, I'd rather stay at the hotel down the street that's cheaper, or I'd rather stay at the hotel down the street that's fancier, or like you just can't win trying to corral a couple hundred people to stay at the same place.
Yeah.
So the beauty of doing this in Chicago is like there are $120 a night rooms in Chicago that look perfectly great on Expedia. And there's probably a Four Seasons somewhere in Chicago if somebody wants to be a high roller. But like you can stay wherever you want and take like a $12 Lyft ride and get to Old Town every day and hang out with us from 10 a.m. to midnight. And it doesn't matter where you stay. And so I like that.
Yeah, me too. And I gotta be honest, like the programming this year looks pretty fun. Can you tell me about how
Yeah.
Josh Scott and Robert Keeley and Heather Brown got involved? Because that's what I'm most excited for. It's
Okay.
apparently
Yeah.
Josh Scott is doing this hosting this Iron Chef style fuzz build off between Robert Keeley and Heather Brown from Heather Brown Electronicals /
Mm-hmm.
godsmom.com, who I've talked
Yeah.
to her a lot. So
Oh,
I'm like,
good.
this
Good.
is fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so we last year, again, like we had shelved this idea. It was our first summit, and I was just reaching out to people that I admire. I really didn't have a connection with Josh Scott. He's, they've never advertised in our magazine or been on our podcast or anything. I just love what he's up to. So last year we did what was called the Nickel Wound Chef, which was a spoof of the Iron Chef, and it was 2 incredible builders building a StewMac parts caster in an hour, and cheating was
Wow.
allowed. There were soldering stations. There was all sorts of random tools. And the 2 competitors last year were Creston Lee of Creston Guitars out of Vermont, and then sort of the underdog, the dark whatever, was Duncan Price, who's Disco BB on Instagram and does all the crazy fretless Sustainiac guitars for Blake Mills and Mason Stoops and stuff.
Wow.
And Duncan is this like incredible like mad scientist when it comes to guitars. So I knew he would come up with something super cool. And I invited Josh to give a talk at last year's summit, which he did, and it was amazing. And then he was also a judge for the Nickel Wound Chef. And I think he was kind of floored by the quirky, nerdy, fun nature of the Fretboard Summit. Like, he had never, obviously there's not a lot of events like this. There's kind of nothing like this. And he was just like, this is incredible. And to hear him say that, because he's seen it all, was kind of cool. So at the end of what became this like comically silly Iron Chef competition, Partscaster build off, where we're going to post a video of it soon. It's taken me forever to edit it down. But
Oh,
like,
I get
Duncan
that.
Price put in a built-in reverb tank on his Partscaster that had like a second neck that you could kind of like tap like a diving board, and it would give your guitar reverb. Creston made a baritone that's actually behind me somewhere. And it was just this like silly, amazing hour of programming. And Josh was one of the judges. And afterwards, he was like, we got to do this for pedals next year.
Oh,
And I'm like,
yeah.
if you want to take the ball and run with it, you can. And so he's emceeing, moderating it. I think they might try to broadcast it live, but I think you're going to want to be there in person, folks. But yeah, he asked Robert Keeley and Heather Brown to be the competitors. I think Joey Landreth is one of the judges. I'm still not sure if Josh is judging or being the Alton Brown in this equation. Like, we'll figure it out. But yeah, there'll be 3 judges, a host, those 2 competing. I think Josh has made like a pantry full of capacitors and shells and, pedal shells and everything. But cheating is probably also going to be totally allowed like last year, because it was just fun to see what people brought from home, like their secret weapon. And so who knows what will happen with this fuzz build off. But yeah, it's called the Germanium Chef, and it's Friday morning, 10 a.m. on August 25th.
And that's 10 a.m. Central Time, I assume?
10 a.m.
Yes.
Chicago time. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. At the big, it's funny too, because like the Old Town School is this like incredible institution, and like Joni Mitchell has played on this stage and all these like legendary folk heroes. And then here we are like last year having 2 guys like soldering and routing out Bob Stumac Partscaster. It was crazy.
That sounds wild. A spring reverb tank and a guitar. I'm going to be thinking about that for a while.
There's some clips on our Instagram and of it, and like I said, we'll post the video of it. But yeah, it needed outboard power, and he also ripped the frets out of it because he's all about fretless.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a crazy competition. And then Joe Glazer, who is one of the like acclaimed guitar repair people out of Nashville, was one of the judges, and they kind of were in a dead heat. And so they ended up calling George Gruen and putting him on speakerphone, which was another comic level to this whole equation. And had George Gruen appraise 2 guitars that had been built literally minutes prior, like in front of an audience. So
who won?
Do you want me to be a spoiler? I guess I could. Creston won. Creston won. Well, we never officially announced it, but yeah, Creston did win. Yeah.
So you're announcing it right now. Creston Lee won.
You guys have the scoop. I'm sure somebody on Instagram has mentioned it before, but yeah, Creston, after a kind of a dead heat, they decided that guitar was slightly more practical
just a little bit
than Duncan's creation. But Duncan's creation, by all accounts, was bonkers.
Duncan's creation. It's just like this Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. And they both started out as like 2 Stumac, whatever the cheapest offset kit. Like I think they were on sale for $180. Like,
nice.
You can, and it was amazing to watch both of these guys compete.
That's awesome. Well, that sounds like so much fun. I really can't wait to see what the Fretboard Summit has in store for this year. For everyone wondering, I believe tickets are still available.
Yeah. We have 3-day tickets that are like, we're calling them all access tickets that get you into every workshop, the thing we just talked about. Bill Frisell's going to lead a guitar orchestra that anyone can join. Wow. Like, I'm trying to make this fun, and like, you're never going to be able to do any of this stuff if you don't come to the summit. Like, I want it to be kind of a once in a lifetime thing. So we got Via Mardot, Jeff Parker from Tortoise playing, Tommy Emmanuel, Jorma Kakkonen, a whole bunch of workshops. And then we've got like a 50 exhibitor Lutherie showcase where the Megan Wells of the world, and all the like high end people are showcasing their wares. And so it's like $350 for 3 nights of entertainment, and there's a bunch of free beer and a swag bag, and I think it's an incredible value. We'll see what the world
Yeah.
thinks, but I think it's going to be like summer camp. It's going to be
I
fun.
That sounds really fun. I'm really looking forward to going. I'm going this year. I know some other great people are
Yes.
going who I probably can't talk about. Trying to convince my husband to come. I think he'd enjoy
The
hanging
more
out
the
in Chicago.
merrier. We're going to put you to work.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
good.
going to have some like live podcast booths too, which is going to be fun for folks who, in the world of guitar media, to just be able to broadcast from there. It'll be fun.
That's going to be so cool and fun. Again, it's the Fretboard Summit. Check the show notes / video description for a ticket link and all of that. And thank you so much, Jason. It's been a great chat.
Thank you, Emily. I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan.
That means a lot to me because
Oh yeah.
I was just doing your marketing for a hot minute. So yeah,
It's funny how these things come full circle, but yeah,
yeah.
no, I love seeing what you're up to.
Thank you so much.
Of
And I really
course.
appreciate it. And until next time, it's Jason and the Fretboard Journal. Welcome back, Joan. It's good to have you back for
Hello.
the end of the episode, the first of this new format. Really quickly, thank you to everybody for watching. I really appreciate that. Let us know what you thought of this episode, this kind of idea, this new thing that we're doing in the comments. I'd love to get your take on it. I know some of you sent me messages that you were sad that I was changing the format. I hope you don't think anything has changed too severely. Just trying to pack more fun into 45 minutes to an hour. So, but I know you've got something for me as well as all of the viewers and listeners.
Yes, yes, I do. I scoured the internet and looked for a piece of trivia to leave with everyone today. So, what I'm asking is, before the Bigsby, what was the mechanical vibrato system in use, and what electric guitar was it first installed on?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Okay. So obviously everyone watching and listening can look it up. I really implore you to put your guess in the comments before you look it up.
Please.
Please do. Please don't ruin it for yourselves. If you're watching or listening on Spotify, I'm going to put a poll and give some options so you can put your guesses there. I have some suspicions. Ah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to start giving my
Pray
guesses.
tell.
Well, Tuna Tone has a palm vibrato system. That's kind of, and I know Bigsby's were also kind of based on guitars with floating tailpieces where you could move the tailpiece with your hand and you would push against the body of the like the spot between the strings and that tailpiece. So my guess is a palm vibrato unit. I'm going to do some more thinking. I have no idea what guitar that would be on, but we're going to have the answer at the end of next week's episode. So everybody tune back in for the official answer. So to everybody out there, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. If you dig this, leave a review on iTunes. Check out our merch. Check it out at podcast.com/merch. Check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/getoffset. If you're listening to this, you can watch it on YouTube. We have live premiere chats that go with this episode pretty much every Tuesday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. So check that out. Usually Joan and I are both in it, sometimes just one of us. So
Yeah.
always fun group.
I love.
And yeah, still a couple minutes to get in your super chat if you're watching during the premiere. If not, that's cool too.
We appreciate it, and I do always look forward to the weekly kind of like live chats and hangs. Like it's like, hey, how's it going? Like I love that kind of direct interaction always.
Totally real time. So to everybody out there, thanks for watching.
Thanks for understanding.
Until next time, my name is Emily.
I'm Joan of Heart.
Goodbye.
Be seeing you.